a brand new day, a beautiful day if you ask me, and it is time for yet another episode of Tax Matters, your weekly digest of information and education on taxation. We begin with sharing news. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has collected 3.81 trillion naira in the period January to September 2012. And you know what is sharing about that is the fact that in 9 months, the FIRS has collected what it was expected to collect for the entire period of 2012. According to a statement issued by Mr. Emmanuel Obeta, the Director of the Corporate Communications and Liaison Department at the FIRS headquarters in Abuja, this is already 2.21 billion naira over the target for the entire 2012, which at the beginning of the year was set at 3.6 trillion. So what the FIRS will collect on behalf of you and I for the 3 remaining months of 2012 will just be bonus. Yes, bonus. That is sharing it indeed. And if you ask me, I think that some of the initiatives of the FIRS in recent time have contributed largely to this success. And one of them is probably the full implementation of self-assessment. In the last 1 year, it has been a swan song, the mantra. Everywhere you go, all the tax offices, whether light tax office, micro and small, or medium tax office, everybody has been talking about self-assessment. And we have in the studio today 2 gentlemen to look at implementation of self-assessment and perhaps maybe along the line tied to this success that we're talking about. We have Mr. Kingsley Okengwu, the tax controller of the Light Tax Office Non-Oil Lagos of the Federal Revenue Service. And with him in the studio is a tax consultant in the person of Prince Gbolahan Oyegoke. He is also not new to viewers of this program. Prince Oyegoke, welcome to Tax Matters.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Okengwu, welcome to Tax Matters.
Thank you.
What do you make of the news coming from your headquarters about what you have been able to achieve in the first 9 months of 2012?
It's quite exciting in the sense that it has reflected exactly most of the effort that FIRS has put in the recent past to ensure that we generate far above even the expectations of Nigerians.
Okay.
And this, has been made possible because of the various initiatives, the various programs, that FIRS has put, on ground. You mentioned one of them, which is self-assessment implementation, and which, of course, the regulation came out in 2011. So FIRS has gone into it quite, extensively, and to ensure that taxpayers understand the benefit of full, self-assessment implementation on their part, and the education and the sensitization that we've had across the country has made taxpayers to respond quite positively to this. And with that response, this is where we are, the achievement. Because the self-assessment implementation itself draws the companies to understand the fact that if they comply to the provisions of that regulation, now most of the penalties and interest they suffered before will not be there. Mm-hmm. You see, the increase that we have seen in the collection that we have made is an expansion of the program itself. For example, our audit unit, our investigation unit have been strengthened as a result of self-assessment program. And what are we talking about of this self-assessment program? Is that you as a taxpayer, FIRS will take you as a partner, as a friend, and have great confidence in you. Please do your business, draw your accounts, draw your computations, send to us, raise the assessment, and go and pay. But ensure that you pay on the due dates of filing and the due date of payment.
Okay, we'll come to those dates. Due date of filing, due date of payment. Prince Oyegoke.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Okengwu has spoken about taking the taxpayer as a partner.
That's right.
You are representing taxpayers.
That's
of
right.
course, you're also a taxpayer. And like Mr. Okengwu will also say, even the tax collector is a taxpayer.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, this full implementation of self-assessment, has it meant hardship or comfort for your clients?
I believe very sincerely that it has brought comfort to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
Before now, everybody see tax payment as more of a burden. But when it was told to every one of them, this is what is expected of you, this is what you are supposed to do, this is the law. It is not a creation of anybody. Once you comply with it, you don't need to start running up and down. And those who are very diligent, those who want to remain in business, they have moved ahead, they have complied with it, and they are enjoying the benefit today. You will find it very easy to pay. And I believe that if somebody is saying, well, I'm not comfortable with the self-assessment, probably he has something to hide. That's my belief, yes.
Oh, so even the collections that we spoke about at the beginning,
yes,
the fact that in 9 months, FIRS has collected what it was expected to collect in 12 months, has not meant that the heat is on your clients.
I don't see it as heat, because these are their obligations expected of them. And it's only telling us that the economy of Nigeria need not depend on oil. Nations are depending on taxes to run their economy, to move their economy forward, to develop their economy. And we are seeing the impact. Before now, if you look at the collections, it has not been so fantastic. But you can see the effect of education. You can see the effect of come and tell us what you believe your taxes should be. And when these are done, go ahead and pay. Although there could be a situation that they can send their men to come and check, which is normal. If you are claiming to be clean, it's not by mouth. I need to also check and confirm that you are actually clean. So those the effect that we are seeing in terms of collections that Federal Inland Revenue has made is a matter that is showing that, well, the people are ready to comply if they are well educated. That's right.
Talking about education, Mr. Okengwu,
yes,
what steps do I need to take to comply with self-assessment?
The education we're talking about, which my friend Oyegoke has said, when you educate a taxpayer that, look, do your business, and when you do your business and do your proper documentation, do you understand, you find it easy to give accounts. But in the absence of documentation, in the absence of getting, practitioners like Oyegoke to pattern your books, you might be thinking that you have a lot of problem, when in the actual sense, if you obey the law and bring the content of the law into practice, you might find out that you don't have as burden as you are thinking about. Yeah. So what happened now? That's the essence of the practitioners. That's the essence. That's why they are there. So one of the things that, for a company that we deal with, you must be able to write up your financial statement at a particular date. You can choose 31st December, and every 31st December, you will write up your financial statement. And now, in the books that we are talking about now, they have to submit their financial statement for that period. Now, they submit, of course, their own computation, as I told you earlier. They compute the tax, and now fill up the self-assessment form by themselves. Now, render this to the tax authority with all the necessary computations, including tax computation and capital allowances computation, as they feel that this is what is due to us. Then they submit this to their revenue. Now, this submission, FIRS, by full implementation of self-assessment, FIRS is not going to reject whatever thing they've submitted. That's the rule of the self-assessment. Accept it, because this is your partner. You are convinced that he is a responsible taxpayer. You have confidence in him.
I'm feeling proud already.
Yeah, you accept whatever thing they have, then put it on book. If we say that his tax is 10 million or 1 million, you don't question it. Go ahead and accept it. But now, just as he said, from time to time, we do a little verification to see whether the confidence we place in that taxpayer is being sustained. As I told you, if you have a particular date, you make up your accounts. Now, the law provides that, one, if you are a duly incorporated company, now you have 18 months from the date of incorporation, or 6 months from the date you make up your first set of accounts, whichever is earlier, to submit your returns. That's the due date of filing for a newly incorporated company. But for a company that has been on for the past 18 months, a going concern, now 6 months from their accounting date is your due date of filing. You must file before that. For example, if you have your accounting day at 31st December, now it's expected that by 30th of June, that your returns is already
the following year.
Or the following year, your returns is already with FRS.
Okay.
So that's the due date.
Okay.
Failure to file on that date, then you have late return penalty, which of course we know in the first month of failure, you pay 25,000. Now in the subsequent months, you pay 5,000.
Wow.
And that's not only that. The self-assessment program has extended it. Now, the due date of payment, when you are supposed to pay and you do not pay, and you did not get back to the revenue as to why you have not paid, then interest in respect of those tax that is coming from you voluntarily, that this is what you are, so now we begin to also charge interest for non-payment.
Okay. When you talk about accounting year,
Yeah.
does it have to be January to December?
No. It doesn't have. You see, the CAMA, Companies and Allied Matters Act, allows a company to choose its own date.
So I can choose September to August of the following year.
Yeah,
Very well.
you can choose.
I can choose April to March.
You can choose April to March.
Okay.
But the only thing is that whatever date you choose needs to be permanent, consistent.
It has to be
If there's
permanent.
any change, there's also a provision in the tax law as to treat the change.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's a different issue altogether.
Okay.
If you change, if you are no longer consistent, you can change anywhere. But if you are changing, so you should know quite well that it has some tax implication. And this is where also Oyegoke people will come in to tell you, do we need to change? If you change, this might be the implication, because there is what you call about the three, commencement, the three relevant years. They will do some level of computation and to advise you whether it's advantageous to you or not advantageous. That's where they come in. But definitely there's tax implication on it.
Okay.
And you are free to change.
Prince Oyegoke,
Yes.
Mr. Okengwu has painted a picture.
That's right. Good.
Is it as smooth as that? You are on the field, you are acting on behalf of your clients. These steps that he laid out, have you found them easy to comply with? But before you take that, we're talking about accounting year, and you said that the company is at liberty.
Yes.
But about 3 years ago, the Central Bank of Nigeria said that all banks should use January to December.
The banks are under another regulatory authority.
They are
Yes.
not under CAMA.
They are under CAMA, but for consistency, for comparability, that is why we have CBN coming up to issue that. Before that time, there were allegations of banks moving funds from one bank to the other to make Bank A look robust than Bank B, because they all have different accounting dates.
So I'll just take 100 million from here,
You put it there. You are ready. You
10
are,
billion
you are,
from here.
Yeah, you can afford the cost. Well, at least the belief is that the benefit is far in excess of the cost. So that's what they believe they were doing then. Nobody has been able to substantiate that date. But then the regulatory authority, which is the CBN, came up and said, no, let us have
uniform
figures that we can compare a uniform date for all the banks, and that's why we have that. Now, talking about the smoothness of the steps, yes, that is what is in practice when you are dealing with Federal Inland Revenue Service. But most of the time, you discover that the clients are usually the problem on their own. Yes, they are. Number one, most of them hardly keep their records. They probably store it in the brain, and brain is so porous, it can forget anything at any point in time.
I like that.
When you look at their check stub, little information. And when an accountant is working on records, I want to be able to say this is what we spend this on, because I should be able to determine whether this is a capital expenditure or an operating expenditure, because they all have different tax implications. Now, for them, some of them even believe that, well, I can remit my VAT as I feel like, or even delay remitting. When you have such, you are bringing a clog in the wheel of your ability to get tax clearance certificate. Some even confused VAT with withholding tax. Now, when some of them are even able to get an accountant that will work on their records, to get information from them becomes another issue. They expect accountant to build figure from nowhere, and a good accountant will tell you, sorry, I cannot proceed with that. So the first problem they will have is the record they need to build up the account we are talking about. But once the account is in place, just move ahead, do your payment, and you are having no problem with Federal Inland Revenue Service.
On that cheerful note, we'll meet you on the other side. We'll go for a short commercial break.
How long it go take for you to clear my container?
I dey do am, Oga. Next day we go bring our team.
Our team? Which team?
Custom don change, Oga. And FRS say
I want to concern FRS with my business. I will talk to Gaba myself. You are fired. Oga Gaba, which one be this our team again?
The taxpayer identification number now the only way where you fit take do business with Nigerian Customs Service now. You fit process your own free tin sharp for any FRS office.
Soji,
you just sack me, no.
Get our team now.
This message now from Federal Inland Revenue Service and Nigeria Customs Service.
You said in most cases the clients, the taxpayers, are the problems, not even problems. The FRS. Mm-hmm. But I look at an average company that cannot afford the services of an accountant as a full-time staff. Yes, you will say that you should then have an outside accountant who can prepare his books for him. You know, I mean, in this country, we don't have retainerships for lawyers. We don't have retainerships for accountants. We don't even see the doctor until we have problems.
That's right.
Most times, I don't think it's because people want to cheat. It's just that we are used to doing business with little funds. You know, it is when you have problems with customs or police that you call a lawyer. Okay. Most times, even a brother, you just call barrister. They have come. So, what is your advice to the company executive or the business owner who does not have a resident accountant or who thinks that it is too expensive? There are two different things.
Yes, I know.
A resident accountant who works from day to day.
And the cost.
And yes, the cost of that. As opposed to having an accountant come and look at my books and help me prepare my books at the end of the year. Okay. What's your advice?
I will take it as a point from the fact that most of the people going into business lack business education ideas. Once you choose to incorporate or register a company, there are a number of obligations that are on grant. A limited liability company must have a company secretary. A limited liability company must have an auditor. A limited liability company must be able to keep its records. A limited liability company must be able to render VAT returns on monthly basis. Once you fail in some of these areas, there are penalties. That the penalties are not being levied now does not mean they are not in existence. Once you take a proper business education before you move into, you'll be able to advise yourself, will I be able to cope? Now, you have set up a company. You can always get an accountant that will come in probably once a week or once in a month to prepare your account. The cost of not preparing it is far in excess of the preparation. How do you take your decision? How do you take business decisions? I was with a client some time ago, and how do you determine your price? The guy said once the good comes in, I multiply by 2. I said, okay, no problem. Let's sit down and do it together. We discovered that what he needs to do is to multiply by 3.5. Because the 200% he was applying was not covering most of his costs.
Oh my God.
But because the money was coming in, he believes that he's comfortable. So a lot of them lose from that particular point. No, I can't afford an accountant. No. It's not a case of, it's a necessity that you must have somebody to advise you on how you move your company forward. If you don't have an accountant that comes in or you don't have a sitting one, you want to write a VAT returns, except you are knowledgeable about it, the cost, the penalty could be quite heavy on you if you allow it to accumulate. At the end of the day, you see some of them abandoning the company, floating another one. Yes, that's what they resort to when they run into that itch. So at all times, you can always, if you can't have an in-house accountant, in fact, there are some, by the time you look at their turnover, you look at their profit, they can afford. But because they believe that, what do I need accountant for? No, or maybe because they want to keep secrets.
Maybe not.
Because they want to keep the secret, they refuse. If you can't, okay, bring somebody to help you on monthly basis to do that. What you are going to pay you will get the benefits as you move ahead. You may want to bring in a new investor. What is it at that point you want to start building records? There will be no integrity in that because the man will not have anything on ground.
So when you keep records, when you have a sitting accountant and all that, and your accounts are in order, it even goes beyond paying taxes.
It goes beyond paying taxes. Then it has to do with your operations. It will even tell you want to take a business now. What is the tax implication? There are some businesses, the COT that will come in will wipe out what you consider as your profit.
The one that the banks charge.
Yes, that means that you may have to approach your bank because some don't know. Since bank say it's 5,000, I mean 5 naira per meal, they assume you cannot negotiate. There are times that if you have somebody reviewing your statement, you will find errors that you can approach your bank. This is an error. Can you please correct? But because some of us are always afraid of figures, they don't even like those who are in lines with figure. Why? You don't want anybody to question you for this expenditure or for that expenditure. All this we need to put in place because it will help in every area of our business, not only in taxation.
Okay. Another quick one before we go back to Mr. Okengwu. The Chartered Institute of Taxation, CITN, your professional body, organized a sensitization workshop to expose the draft of the Statement of Taxation Standards. And there was talk about the difference between the accountant acting as an accountant to prepare my books and a tax practitioner filing my tax returns. What's the dividing line?
It could be quite thin, but for a trained eye, you will discover that it's quite a big gap. When an auditor is auditing your account. That puts the third one in now. Your auditor, it is not his responsibility to prepare your account. You are supposed to hand him an account that is good for publication and for him now to audit that. If he's doing it, he will charge you for that. Yes. When account is set, there are certain parameters you have used in the account which is alien to the tax administrators, is alien to the tax laws. There is need for harmonization. For example, tax people don't understand what you call depreciation. What they will give you is capital allowances. And why? Different companies have different rates of depreciating. But there is uniformity in the area of capital allowances. So they will throw back your depreciation and bring in capital allowances. And there are some, you may be having loss at the beginning. By the time a taxman finishes, you have a profit.
And that's not because it's making up books.
It's not making up books.
It's not because it's cheating.
It is not cheating. You may have profit. By the time they finish, they will discover that you don't have to pay any taxes. Depending on what do you have on ground, your capital allowances and others. By the time they finish that, it is that tax computation you must attach to your self-assessment and your financial statement. The tax administrator will look at your account, look at what you have prepared from your tax computation and be able to proceed and move ahead. Now, if we are saying accountant should prepare, your auditor, your statutory auditor should prepare your account, should audit, then should move ahead and file the returns. There could be an oversight in some areas because the one that generated the figure in the first instance, he will assume, oh, my figure is right. By the time he gets to tax office, by the time they show him 1 or 2 lines, he will have to run back. And in any case, the law of the land says accountancy and taxation are 2 distinct professions. You find quite a number of lawyers and accountants in taxation. That you are an accountant does not automatically translate that you are a tax practitioner.
Okay, that's a matter for another day. Time will not permit us to conclude this interesting discussion on self-assessment. Our guests have been Mr. Kingsley Okengwu of the Federal Revenue Service and Prince Gbolahan Oyegoke, a tax practitioner. We'll be looking at self-assessment, and next episode we will take up from the instrumental payment regulation, the part of the self-assessment regulations that concern instrumental payment. We'll, for example, be looking at the place of withholding tax deducted as source when we talk about instrumental payment and when we talk about due date for filing and due date for payment under self-assessment regime. We want to conclude this episode on a cheerful note. Mr. GFS Jegede, John Femi Sunday Jegede, the present president of the CITN, the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, has just been elevated to the position of Federal Permanent Secretary. On Saturday 27th and Sunday the 28th, the people of Ilawe Ekiti, his homestead, honored him for bringing honor to their community. We want to congratulate the CITN for producing Mr. Jegede. Mr. Jegede was at a time the registrar and chief executive of the CITN. He later moved on into the Federal Civil Service and until recently was the director of finance at the EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Mr. Jegede, once again, congratulations, and to our viewers, thank you for watching. Let's meet again on this same station, same day of the week next week.